Hello, my name is Paul Rogers. I am a teacher of English as a second or foreign language in the United States near Los Angeles, and I've been teaching for almost 30 years. In that time, I've developed 2 websites and I've written a lot of texts, which I like to share with you that you can use for free. Because there are 2 websites that are free. One is pumarosa.com and the other is Inglés con Profe Pablo, where I have placed my texts and a lot of videos. I have a YouTube channel, which is where I'm making this, and so I have 100 videos, and I put a lot of that right on Inglés con Profe Pablo. My program is bilingual and phonetic, and it's bilingual to explain everything to the student, and phonetic para. It's very bilingual. It's phonetic to help people with their pronunciation. Pronunciation is an important part of my program, and I believe that step-by-step students can learn pronunciation, and also need to learn pronunciation. Many classes don't teach pronunciation. So here are some samples of my books that you can download for free. And what I do is I print up my books. I take the ink cartridge and I fill it up. I refill it. You can go get ink cartridges at, depending upon where you are, it could be, I don't know if you have, like Office Depot has ink cartridges, or there are many places in Mexico, I know that sell bottles of ink. So the first book is called Vocabulario Básico. And it is the basic vocabulary of everything, all the words that people would need to know in their daily life. About 350 words. Here's the index. And here's an example of the alphabet. I always begin the alphabet because for 2 reasons. It's good idea to learn the alphabet, and secondly, it's important to pronounce the G and the J and the V right off the bat. I try to introduce exercises to learn the pronunciation of those particular letters or sounds. And then I always have an exercise where they learn the first question: how do you spell your name? And then they can look at the letters. At first, the first class, they look at the letters and they spell their name out loud. And it's a good lesson, actually. Then the next lesson is greetings. And you can see the word is printed in English on one side with, in parentheses, a guide to the pronunciation along with the Spanish translation. And if people want to memorize the vocabulary, I show them what you do is simply you cover up the Spanish and you give yourself a quiz. Because learning words is very important. Developing a vocabulary is very important. I have the numbers. And when I was putting together my book, I collected other language books. I was living in Tijuana and I collected, there are books I bought at bookstores to teach people English, and I also bought used books for people to learn Spanish in the U.S. And when I came to the numbers, I noticed that all the books usually at first taught up to 10, 20, or maybe 100. But I thought to myself, well, why not? What did I do? I'm sorry. I'm looking at it backwards. Why not go right to 1 million? Why not? There's no reason not to. And then in this book, I have a pronunciation guide. And again, it's on Pumarosa, and I have videos on Inglés con Profe Pablo. Then The next lesson is commerce. So how much does it cost? It's a common question that people need to learn and answer. And this one, I have a dialogue that we read in class. Students take turns reading it in class, reading out loud. Slowly, there's no hurry. I never put pressure on people. There's no reason to pronounce everything correctly. It takes time, takes a lot of practice. So anyway, after that, I have a book and lessons on pronunciation. I like to first introduce English, the vocabulary básico, and then at a certain point, we'll do a little bit more intensive focus on pronunciation. This book first shows the similarities between English and Spanish, that there are a lot of letters that you pronounce the same, and they already know this. Most people already know this. And then I begin on the vowels, and I like to introduce the rule right off the bat of the E at the end of the word. You don't pronounce, it's mute and changes the sound of the vowel. Then I have to explain short and long vowels. I do this in front of the class, and I usually, when I teach pronunciation, I use a sense of humor, and I exaggerate the sound. Like I'll say, the first one is the family of the AY. A, bay, play, say, day. I exaggerate. I show people and encourage people to exaggerate the sound, because learning pronunciation is muscular. You have to retrain the muscles of your jaw, your tongue, your throat, and you have to, even breathing is different. And each language has its own way of breathing. So, and it takes time. It's not, people think that the pronunciation is mental. It's practice, muscular practice. And I use the method of exaggeration, and I encourage people to break the word into syllables. Like, for example, a very difficult word to learn is refrigerator. So go re-fridge-er, a-tor. And I do reminders. People will read out loud, and I don't really correct everything. Only things that I consider to be important at that time. Then we're on to the grammar. Now, what I've done in this short grammar book is using the method of bilingual phonetic. Hold on a second. Well, it's a method that many textbooks, many teachers use. First, you explain the lesson. It's explained in Spanish, the rule, with lots of examples, and then we have an exercise. The students do the exercise. They either write it or we do it out loud in class. And the answers are in the back of the book. And it doesn't mean that once they get it, that they're going to know it perfectly. Sooner or later, when we do a review, people make mistakes. But they make fewer and fewer mistakes the more we do. And I tell everybody they must be patient. And I focus on the verb tenses. I focus on all the verb tenses. Short introduction, short explanation in Spanish, examples, and then exercises. And we do the exercises in class. Is the verb to be? You can see I always include a pronunciation guide. And when I have a quiz, I do quizzes. And one thing I do that apparently few books, few textbooks, or few teachers do So I teach the different pronunciations of the past tense of regular verbs. The d, the t, the id. And I put 10 or 20 words in each group. 10 or 20 most common verbs go in each group. For example, here's asked, cooked, jumped. And I, excuse me, I exaggerate the pronunciation. Asked, jumped. And encourage them to exaggerate it, because exaggeration helps memorization. It helps cement the practice. So I have the 3 pronunciations, and then that's the grammar. In my class, it's very important that the students read, because only by reading can the students increase their vocabulary. It's very important to read. So I've written some stories and poems. I also use the lyrics of songs in my classes, especially popular songs that they like. And this is my lecturas. It's all on my website, Inglés con Profe Pablo. This one is called My Day. It's for beginners. It follows vocabulario básico, usually. And it's very, very simple. It's material that they need to learn. Hello, my name is Paul Rogers. I am a man. I weigh 240 pounds. Well, I wrote that a couple of years ago when I weighed 240 pounds. Now I weigh 205 pounds. And it practices the numbers, it practices spelling. It practices the numbers, and then they can also, they have to spell their name. And it continues. I usually wake up at 6 o'clock, etc., and I go like that. And I have stories. I have poems. I have my day, my city, my childhood. I have another one here. I have one that's very popular called Ricardo and His Family. Now, that's based on my translation of an easy Spanish reader by Raymond Grismer, which was written in 1946, and which I found in a bookstore, used bookstore, that I used to study Spanish with. And the first 20 lessons are all in the present tense. And I use a lot of cognates, words that are similar or almost equal in the Spanish and English. And I was reading this book, and I said, "Wow, I can read in the past tense." Because I had trouble with the past tense. After the present tense, that goes into past tense. And I said, "This is great." And then you're learning. Reading helps you learn the language because you're seeing the language in action. And here's the lesson. So I translated it, and I updated. I changed it, and I give Grismer credit. And students read this out loud in class, and it has the vocabulary. There's a lot of cognates. Well, that's the gist, or the basics of the textbooks for beginner classes. Later, as the class develops, I've written large workbooks. This is the same as El Vocabulario Básico, but it has many more lessons. And for example, the numbers also have the ordinal numbers, and the months have the dates, the holidays, and all that. So I just amplified everything. And I have a lot of dialogues. And I have, for example, under food, basically, after that, I have dialogues for waiters and waitresses. So it's useful for their work. And then the other workbook is the grammar workbook, the same contents, the same subjects, but again, amplified. I have a big section on do and does, which is very popular, and a lot of exercises for writing. So that's about it. Let me see, there's a few other things. I use songs in class. I like to use songs. And I have, you'll see, I'm going to include information on my websites, on my websites and my Facebook groups. I have Facebook groups on pronunciation, songs, lecturas, and I have an English for kids that's very popular. And people can join my WhatsApp groups. I have several groups. And usually students will ask me questions, and I will send them lessons from Pomerosa or Inglés con Profe Pablo, or from Google. Google has a lot of good lessons. And I always send videos, a lot of videos. So that's my course in a nutshell. I'm going to include information about how to contact me. Please do so. Thank you very much.